So I'm going to tell you what lessons I've taken away, leadership lessons I've taken away from the YouTube channel. So
You are listening to The Leadersmith, Darren Gerdes.
okay, so it has been a while since I have created another podcast episode for the Leadersmith, but that doesn't mean that I've been dormant. I've actually been working really hard. Some of you might have been wondering why I haven't podcasted lately. I have. I've just not been doing it here. I started a new YouTube channel, and I mean, if you look at my Leadersmith podcast, June 23rd, today is July 6th. June 23rd was the last time, June 6th the last time before that, May 20th before that. So it's like every 2 weeks, May 8th before that. So every 2 weeks or so I've put something out, but it's been a while. So I started this new YouTube channel, and there's a reason why, and I'll give you some of the background here. So first, I wrote a book, and that was I Need Ammunition, Not a Ride, and it was about Zelensky. I wrote it over spring break, about 3 weeks into the war in Ukraine, and then I've been updating it weekly, like seriously every week, working on updates, just tracking what's been going on. And I found it very interesting. I find Zelensky very interesting, and then I got off track in my Leadersmith podcast because I talked way too much about Ukraine. So I separated that out. I'm not going to talk about Ukraine anymore. Well, I hope not anymore on the Leadersmith podcast. I'm going to talk about it only on this other channel and talk about just leadership-ishy stuff. What I'm talking about here, though, is that I started this new channel, and here are some lessons that I've learned as I've started the channel. So again, I've been updating weekly. I hope the war would be over. I'm kind of tired just tracking it. I can't imagine what people are actually going through on the ground. 132 days since the Russian invasion. But in the beginning of the summer, I was thinking, man, I'm getting kind of tired. I'm not going to get a summer out of this. I mean, so if you don't know me, I'm a professor. And so summer is a time to recuperate, take it easy, go to the pool with the kids and that kind of thing. And then I just have been, it feels like I've been going, because I have been going, just tracking what's going on. But then at a certain point, a switch flipped in my mind, and I went, you know what? Instead of thinking, oh, woe is me that I have to keep tracking this and I can't get away from it, and it's going to be something that is just going to keep draining me over summer, what if I double down? What if I go all in on this rather than just tracking for the book? Let me create this YouTube channel. And so that's what I've done. This is so I'm going to tell you what lessons I've taken away, leadership lessons I've taken away from the YouTube channel. So first, let me, if you're listening to this, it's fine. But you can also watch this on YouTube. I created this YouTube channel, and it says Professor Gerdes Daily Updates on Ukraine, as opposed to Professor Gerdes Management Professor, whatever. And so if you just Google Professor Gerdes Daily Updates on Ukraine, if you just Google Professor Gerdes, you'll get the first one, where all the Leadersmith podcasts are held as well. And you can watch them as well as listen to them. If you are interested in Ukraine, you can do this daily updates on Ukraine. And if you look at it, you'll see that I have had daily updates since day 85 on Ukraine. And I've just tried to be comprehensive. Now, I started a little after day 85, and then I backtracked a little bit, but 85 to 132 right now, I'm almost 50 episodes in. And I haven't had a lot of traction from that, but that's okay. So there's not a lot of traction, and that's one of the first leadership lessons. It doesn't really matter how much traction I've had yet, because like if I look at how many, I've gotten 441 views in the last 28 days. At first it was really painful because I had like 30 videos, and I had about 20 or 30 views. So it's starting to catch up a little bit over time, but it was starting to be painful, but that doesn't matter. The issue here, and here's one of the first leadership lessons, is synergy. Synergy is the key to almost anything that you're going to do. And I've organized most of my life in the way that synergy is everything I do except for one thing at work and a couple committees, because you can't avoid committee work. Other than one activity that I do and committee work, everything else I do is synergistic with everything else. So if I'm reading, or if I'm writing an article, or if I'm in class, it's all working so that one supports another. And that's a very big, important key in life. So synergy is key, and all that you should do should be synergistic. it's very important that you understand, don't despise the day of small beginnings. And this is taken out of a verse in Zechariah, and it's really kind of a little out of context given what they're talking about, because it then goes on to say, for they shall rejoice, they shall see the plummet in the hand of Zerubbabel with those seven. They're the eyes of the Lord which run to and fro throughout the earth. So this is God talking about, don't despise what's small beginnings, because he's going to do these great things. And if you take it out of context, it's like, well, don't despise it because you're going to, I'm not saying because I'm going to do the same things, but the principle is still the same. Don't despise the day of small beginnings. Do what you want to do, and you won't feel like working is great advice, except it's not really true. It's lies. So when you do what you want to do, it's still work. It's still like, it's synergistic, but I actually do enjoy tracking what's going on. Like I look at a deep state map every day. This is like the map of all the battles on the ground. I read a dozen articles about who's doing what in the political sphere, and you know, Zelensky's speeches. I read all of those and that kind of thing, and I enjoy tracking it. I hope it's over soon. I can't imagine what the combatants are feeling on the ground, but you know, it's interesting to do that. And so there's some truth to, if you do what you what you find interesting, it doesn't feel like work, but it's still work, and you still have to go and do it if you've committed to something like that. Now, the next thing is that it's really, what's really interesting is, like, if you are working at something, and most people don't realize this, but like, you can work at things and you're probably not hitting the upper limits of what you're actually capable of. And if you think about that, like, so now I hit my upper limits. I was kind of under the weather, and at the same time, I was working on two papers, two like peer-reviewed papers for presentations at a conference in the fall. One, I had to have 5 or 6 pages out of a co-written paper, and the other was 20 pages that I put together out of a co-written paper, both due on July 1st. And I strained all my resources in order to get this done, but I got it done. And so I actually found that while I'm sick and tracking this and updating the book and doing that, I could do all those things. So I've been comparatively lazy all my life, but I've hit the upper limits of what I can do, and I know where that line is now, and that's a really great place to be. Okay, the next idea, or the next concept that I want to share with you, is that it's interesting to see how long it takes for a YouTube channel to get off the ground. I don't know. I mean, I had a YouTube channel for years, but I've only used it like to just like put stuff out there. I wasn't really trying to grow one. So it's really a kind of an interesting thing to see, like, how I can grow one. And I have another paper. Here's a synergy again. I have another paper that I'm working with some colleagues on about YouTube influencers. So I'm seeing my own experience as I'm working on this paper. And so that's interesting, and my own curiosity. Okay, I have some other leadership lessons as well. And so the first one is this. My first videos were poor. When I go and I look at like the videos on my page, when I go down, like, if you're going to watch one, don't watch day 85 or 86 or something like that. The early ones are kind of poorly done. And you know, they're okay. They provide information, but when you go and you look at something north of 100, and we're at day 132 right now, as I talk about this, they're actually pretty well done and pretty well organized, and they think through. So this should happen, right? Your first videos were poor, your most recent videos are better. Your first is going to be your worst at whatever you do. So just take comfort in that. The second big leadership lesson beyond the ones that I've talked about is that there's only so much time in a day. So sometimes your priorities will have to shift. Like I said, I hit the outer limits of my productivity with the 2 papers and the being sick and whatever else. If you can find the outer limits of your productivity, you're going to be incredibly productive. But there's only so much time in a day, and something's going to have to give, right? My podcast hasn't gotten a lot of attention. That's okay. Maybe in the long term, I decide, oh, I'm not going to do it. But I think I'm going to keep doing the Leadership podcast. I think, and while I'm doing this, and I think I can do that and pull this off as long as other pieces in my life don't get out of whack. The next thing is, don't worry about success or views. If I look at how many views I only have 10 subscribers at this point, only have 441 views so far, and 20 hours of watch time. And I put more time into it than people have watched at this point. But the trend over time is going to take care of itself. And so I'm not worried about it. But while I'm saying that, don't worry about success or views, at least not at first. Do something meaningful. If you're doing something that is meaningful to you, and again, I'm even if nobody watches it, it's getting into my head so that I can update my book. And I've had dozens of people buy the book. So I, I would hope to say hundreds of thousands, but it'll take a while, right? And so it will be. So I'm kind of joking myself with the dozens of readers of my book, but again, I'm telling you, it's something meaningful, and so I'm enjoying and I'm getting synergy and all those things. Okay, now if you are still listening to this, I'm going to ask you to do something for me. I'm going to ask you to go to YouTube and type in Professor Gerdes, Gerdes, daily updates on Ukraine, and just watch one episode, preferably a later one, not an earlier one. Just watch one episode and then just leave some kind of comment, what you think, what can I do better, am I doing it right, those kind of things. Just let me know, and I'd appreciate it. And if you're interested and you want daily updates, you would not hurt my feelings if you subscribed so that you can hear what's going on as well. So thank you for that in advance if you're willing to do that. And I want to leave you with the quotation for contemplation for today, which is from C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis, I mean, he said a lot of really great things, but here he said, "You never know what you can do until you try, and very few try unless they have to." Don't be in that camp where it's something that you have to do. Do it because like this is what you're supposed to do in life. This is where you need to go. Don't do things just because you're forced to. Do things now proactively, and you'll be amazed at what you are able to do over time. Hey,